Well, for further clarity, we also have with us Sharan Kaur joining us. She's a political strategist. Sharan, thanks so much for making time for us on NDTV. Can Trudeau's resignation be viewed as a graceful exit, or does it reflect a failure to meet the expectations set when he first came into power?
Listen, I think what a lot of people need to remember is that when you have a government that's been in place for now 10 years almost,
Yes.
you have a bit of that incumbency factor that comes into place where we had COVID pandemic, where we had restrictions in the country, we had a cost of living crisis, high interest rates, and what was a very, I would say, a honeymoon phase in the beginning of his mandate turned into, I would say, not so much in the second half. So his resignation today, given on Wednesday, there's supposed to be a large caucus meeting with the National Caucus, it wasn't going to go well for him. And I think if he waited any longer for that caucus meeting to happen, it would have really truly made it look like they pushed him out. So
Right.
he quite frankly should have left sooner when it wasn't so bad for him in terms of having a caucus revolt. But it is what it is, and he is now leaving.
Well, Sharan, from political novice to a three-time prime minister, though, how should one evaluate Trudeau's legacy? Did his accomplishments actually outweigh his controversies, or have the latter come to define his term in office now?
Well, I think in the immediate time right now, everyone's looking at all the negative things because it's easy, it's fresh. But I worked in this government for 5 years, and I can say from 2015 to 2020, there were some really good things that we did. There's measures that were put in place that took children out of poverty. There's so much work on reconciliation with the Indigenous communities. So it's really important that we look at the good things that the cabinet and the prime minister did as a whole. And you know what? It's important to look at the things that didn't work out as well either. But every government's going to have their time. There's the good and the bad. I do think that right now everyone's very focused on the negative, but time will tell what the legacy is. And I think he's going to have to keep his head up and look at all the good things that were done and reevaluate the things that were not so great.
Well, you worked for Trudeau's government for 5 years, you've said. Would you say Canada's better off without Trudeau at the helm? And do you agree with those who say that Trudeau's charm has finally worn off with the Canadian electorate?
I think given the time we're in right now in 2025, it's time for him to go. We have to remember when he came into office in 2015, the Liberal Party was polling in third place.
Yes.
They weren't polling in majority territory. And he brought in something that the Liberals didn't have for a while. It was this celebrity factor. I've been to events with him where people cheer him on. They want to talk to him. They want to shake his hand. They want to hug him. And that lasted for quite some time. But that changed. I think after a certain period of time, specifically after COVID, people felt disenfranchised. Some of the virtue signaling that he did in his language really upset certain types of people, and it's changed. So I do think that for the sake of the country and the Liberal Party, it is time for him to go. And I think he's doing what he needs to do. And now we have to have a robust leadership race. There's been a lot of talk around whether Chrystia Freeland should just be voted in by caucus, which I strongly disagree with. We need to have a robust leadership battle because we need people to come forward and bring their ideas. It should not be an appointment whatsoever.
Absolutely. Also, in terms of home ground for us in India, Trudeau's relationship with the Indian government has not been the most pleasant since the last few years. According to you, how much did his handling of this diplomatic situation, as many call it a disaster, actually damage Canada's standing on the world stage, or would you say it didn't impact it?
Well, the Canada-India relations is a very difficult one for even people here in Canada to want to talk about.
Yes.
There's factions of groups, and we know what the issues are. We have a very large population of very pro-Khalistani individuals here in Canada. And I think the problem has always been is that people in government, not just Trudeau, they don't understand how one group doesn't represent the entire community. It doesn't represent the entire Indian community, the entire Sikh community. And it's created this tension. And I think we've seen that here lately. And we saw that when he went back to India. And then we've also had, there's been claims of India's interference here in Canada. So I do think that whoever comes into place next needs to tread very carefully with the relationship with India. India is an important partner. And we have to work out these difficulties in a diplomatic way and a proper way. And we need to listen to the entire Indian diaspora community in Canada, and politicians need to look at all of them, not just specific demographics in certain groups.
Well, thanks so much, Sharan, for joining us. We will, of course, revert you for regular updates as and when things settle down politically in Canada and see where the Liberals and Canada go from here. But thank you so much for making time for us on NDTV.